Good afternoon. The Senate Judiciary and Public Safety Committee will come to order. Today is Monday, February 10th, 2025, and we do have a quorum present. We're going to have a couple of presentations today. We're not taking any action on any bills today. We're first going to hear from the Department of Public Safety. Commissioner Jacobson, welcome to you and your team. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and get started.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Latz, members of the committee. For the record, as stated, my name is Bob Jacobson. I've been here in front of you before, and I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety, and it's my honor to be here today. We're going to have a presentation today. I'll be assisted by several of our staff members. But again, I want to thank you for having DPS here today to discuss Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan's 2025 budget for our public safety divisions. I will present the agency-wide proposal, and then the division directors will come up and present their items in more detail, and we will all be available for questions at the end. As you know, DPS has divisions that fall within the jurisdiction of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee and the Transportation Committee. Our public safety divisions include Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement, State Fire Marshal, Office of Justice Programs, Emergency Communication Networks, Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The first item I just want to mention briefly is our operating adjustment in the governor's proposed budget. The Department of Public Safety has over 2,200 employees statewide. Those employees are committed to delivering quality care and services to all Minnesotans. As with all businesses and governmental agencies, we're seeing an increase in the costs associated with maintaining those current levels of service, factors such as employee salary, healthcare costs, et cetera. Given the budget outlook this year, the governor's recommending what we would call measured agency operating adjustments. And those operating adjustments include to the general fund, special revenue fund, and the environmental fund. I would also like to note about grant administration authority. Our DPS divisions oversee and administer several grant programs where state dollars are distributed to partners throughout the state as designated by the legislature. We're committed to ensuring that grant dollars are maximized and that we have the greatest impact. Critical part of administering those grants is having resources for the agency to complete that critical oversight function to combat fraud, waste, and misuse of those public funds. This proposal would protect grant fund investments by allowing DPS to use up to 5% of grant funds for non-competitive grants and up to 5% of grant funds for competitive grants to ensure stable and adequate funding for the costs to implement those controls that prevent fraud, waste, and misuse of tax dollars. With that, I will turn it over next to our State Fire Marshal, Dan Cryer.
Fire Marshal, welcome.
All right, thank you, Chair Latz. And thank you, Senators. Good afternoon. So our mission, we want to strengthen Minnesota's fire-safe environments. Ultimately, our goal is to make Minnesota the most fire-safe state in the nation. And we do that in a variety of ways. We do that through inspections, investigations, and then also some really specialized services, very low frequency, high incident services, which is what we'll be sharing today that are included in the governor's recommendation for budget. So our first proposal is moving of those specialized teams, some of those specialized teams. Those would be our specialized or technical rescue teams. Those are Minnesota Air Rescue Team and then the Urban Search and Rescue Teams, which are actually two. We have Task Force 1 and Task Force 2. So I just want to give a quick background on what each of those specialties and the services provided by those teams. Minnesota Air Rescue Team is a joint powers agreement between the State Patrol and the City of St. Paul. Think of somebody dangling from a helicopter to pick somebody up in a very remote spot. They're doing very dangerous activities. They need to do a lot of training, and they're helping people who are in very sticky situations. And we're really excited that as that team has continued to train and operate, they've been able to advance their capabilities. Notably last year, some of the barriers were they were not able and confident to fly at night and do night operations, which, as we know, if somebody is maybe camping in a very remote area, they might need help overnight. It's difficult to say, we'll see you in the morning. And so that team has advanced their capabilities, and this proposal supports that continuing advancement to be able to provide those services with night flight, as well as more advanced hoist rescue. That's the person hanging off of, tethered to the helicopter and rescuing somebody. We also have the task force teams, which are urban search and rescue. These are specialized teams that get involved with high-angle rescue, somebody trapped up in a high spot, low-angle rescue, somebody trapped really low, structural collapse, and again, really very low-frequency incidents, but high risk. Minnesota has 2 teams. One is Task Force 1. They are a group consisting of 5 local jurisdictions: City of Edina, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Dakota County Task Force Group, and the City of Rochester. Task Force 2 comprises of Duluth, Virginia, and the 148th Fighter Wing. So they're spread throughout the state to give us that swift response in the event something happens, and they're there for those really tragic incidents if a building collapses, or if somebody is stuck in a cave, or somebody is stuck in the mines. This proposal is also something that fits within adding some internal controls. This was a finding within the OLA audit, or a recent OLA audit stating that these teams need more oversight. The appropriation should go to the group that gives them the oversight, which is our office at the State Fire Marshal Division. The request for the increased appropriations for both of those groups go to increasing their capabilities so that they can continue to serve Minnesotans and match the evolving needs. I've got one more, got our hazmat teams there. So we talk about rescue. We know that fire service also puts out fires. Another specialty within the fire service is hazardous materials response. So we have 11 hazmat teams. They are contracted through DPS. Again, these are similar to our task force teams, where they are local jurisdictions who perform the service. And they're scattered throughout the state, all the way from Rochester to St. Paul, Minneapolis. We have Hopkins, North Metro, which is around the Blaine area, up to International Falls. And then we have those out west in Marshall, Moorhead, St. Cloud, to give us that central coverage. These teams respond to really critical hazardous materials incidents. Think of a railroad incident or any type of chemical and transport that spills and it gets to a spot where we don't want it. They can also respond to fixed facilities, such as the Becker metals recycling fire. They have capabilities to be able to do air monitoring, air particulate monitoring, really advanced capabilities to help keep Minnesotans safe for these, again, rare instances. These teams do a great work, and we want to advance the work they do and to meet the evolving needs that are coming. We know that chemicals transported in the state, they change based on current practices, what industry needs. So as we evaluate those risks, we want to make sure that our teams have the right equipment to be able to respond accordingly. The next proposal is charter schools. So the state fire marshal is tasked with doing fire inspections at public schools and charter schools. Per statute, they are inspected at least once every 3 years, and we do that. And we also have 12 cities that maintain the delegation to be able to do that. So there are, every school, public school and charter school in the state of Minnesota is receiving a fire inspection once every 3 years. Well, there's a little bit of inequity in the sense that charter schools have a flat fee of $100 for their fire inspection. And if we go to the next slide and we look at kind of the evolution of charter schools, we have a picture on the left of one in Tower that's about 13,000 square feet as compared to one on the right in Brooklyn Park that is 101,000 square feet. And so right now, under the current statute, they're charged the same fee of $100 to do that inspection. But I'm sure just by seeing the pictures, we can estimate that, or I would hope that you estimate, it takes different amount of time to do a fire inspection in those two buildings. One is approximately 8 times greater. It, in theory, would take 8 times longer to do that inspection. So this proposal looks to make it a per square footage fee. So the larger the school, the longer it takes to do the inspection, and this is to cover the costs of that inspection. This isn't to generate excess dollars, this is to cover the cost to do the fire inspection and to keep everyone safe. For some background, to do at the $100 fee, that's about a 7,500 square foot building. So even this building in Tower is twice that, is approximately twice that. So the fee isn't meeting the cost to be able to do that inspection. The average building area of a charter school today is about 39,000 square feet. So this proposal looks to have those costs covered to be able to do that service. And then finally, our a policy item here is looking at repealing some outdated statutes. So it wasn't up until really the 1990s, so I think in everyone's lifetime here, that Minnesota had a state fire code. So prior to that, there were different factions of the code, different versions of what the code might be based on region, what a city adopts. And so Minnesota was very wise, dating back to even the early 1900s, and adopted statutes to establish minimum fire safety requirements. And those statutes remain today, and they conflict with what is the state building code. So this policy looks to repeal those outdated statutes as they are now covered in the state building code. And for all of them, they are either equivalent in the state fire code or they're actually safer when following the state building code. So want to eliminate that confusion and that conflict.
Good afternoon, members. My name is Kim Babine. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Office of Justice Programs, which provides leadership and resources to reduce crime and improve the criminal justice system and juvenile justice system in Minnesota, as well as assist crime victims. So we administer grants, we provide training, technical assistance, research, and data, and we work to protect crime victim rights and reimbursement claims for victims of violent crime. The governor's first proposal for the Office of Justice Programs is for crime victim services grants. Currently, the Office of Justice Programs administers funding to local organizations, nonprofit organizations, local units of government, and tribal governments in order to provide services to victims of violent crime. Additional funding is needed for a number of reasons as the cost of providing services continues to grow, and there was one-time money funding in the last budget cycle that is going away because it's one-time funding, and so additional funding is needed. The governor's recommendation is $5 million. You have folks later in the agenda who will be able, who are here to speak to this, but I can provide a little bit of information that we have types of programs including child advocacy centers, domestic violence community programs and shelters, general crime programs, legal advocacy programs, and parenting time centers, as well as prosecutor-based crime victim services. So these programs impact children and youth impacted by crime, as well as sexual assault programs and statewide crime victim coalitions. And when we think about these programs, they really are vital and critical along the public safety continuum. They are public safety in that when people are have been experiencing that violent crime, they need plans for safety. So some of our programs provide resources to leave in, say, a domestic violence situation, create a safety plan to be able to survive an abusive partner. And we work with types of crime including child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and other general crime. The second program for the governor's budget is the Intensive Comprehensive Peace Officer Education and Training Grant Program, Intensive Comprehensive, sometimes referred to as IC-POET. This was a program that was started in the 2023 legislative session, and it provides grants to assist law enforcement to recruit, hire, train, and retain quality candidates. The funding would provide for approximately 75 additional peace officers at $2 million each year. This program has been quite successful. We've had 2 rounds of funding from the 2023 session, and working to build and address the recruitment challenges and retaining problems for law enforcement agencies around the state. So that's intensive comprehensive. Office of Justice program also has a policy item regarding victim notification requirements. It would require prosecutors to notify victims of their decision to decline charging cases where a reported violation of an order for protection or harassment restraining order was in place. And the second would update and correct law enforcement victim notification to ensure victim notification language is accurate and in plain language, encourage agencies to provide notification electronically, and clarify the law enforcement notification requirements. Turn it over to Superintendent Evans.
Superintendent Evans. Thank you, Director Bevine.
Thank you, Chair Latz and members of the committee. My name is Drew Evans. I'm the superintendent of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Our mission is to prevent and investigate and solve crimes in collaboration with our criminal justice partners. We have 3 large divisions, or 4, at the BCA. The first being our Minnesota Justice Information Services. These are all the criminal history background checks for the state of Minnesota, our forward-facing databases that law enforcement and criminal justice partners utilize. We have our Forensic Science Services, which is the state's crime laboratory, providing services as the only full-service laboratory in the state across all 87 counties, and then providing assistance even in the counties where there are local crime laboratories. Our Investigations Division, which is our law enforcement component of the organization, providing assistance in a variety of crimes across Minnesota, and then Professional Services, which encompasses all of our legal support, fiscal administrative pieces, and working together with our main Department of Public Safety components, and our criminal justice training and education, which is our training, which we provide training to law enforcement of 6,000 to 9,000 students every year across the state of Minnesota and required by statute. Going quickly through a few items that are in the governor's budget recommendations. The first is to provide a small amount of ongoing assistance to our new combined financial crimes and fraud section at the BCA. As you may be tracking, and conversations I've had with some of you, the governor recommended, and we completed the process through the Administrative Reorganization Authority to align our investigative resources combating financial crimes and fraud across the state of Minnesota. That combined the BCA's fraud and our financial crime section with the Commerce Fraud Bureau section, and that was completed as of Friday last week. This budget recommendation would allow us to hire a couple of people to assist in that work. And their main priorities are insurance fraud, wage theft, misclassification work, traditional financial crimes that both entities have historically worked, and then state program fraud to do the criminal investigation once fraud has been identified. What this funding would do is provide a forensic accountant to provide assistance to that team, and then funding to contract with 2 attorneys generals to provide assistance to that team if it needed in greater Minnesota for prosecutorial resources at the request of the local prosecutor, and then to provide us assistance as we complete cases or see cases decline to provide feedback to the state program entity in particular when fraud may have occurred or there's problems with that, to provide detailed information to them. The second component in the BCA's funding that the governor recommends for funding is a one-time cost that would build a missing persons database for the state of Minnesota. Right now, when an individual is entered as missing, they pass through the BCA, but the information is entered into NCIC, which is an FBI system. That information is then queryable by the local law enforcement when people are missing, but it's not very user-friendly. And so what we can do with that is I can ask the FBI for a spreadsheet today, but that's what I get as a PDF spreadsheet, and I am unable to really be able to provide answers that many people have been looking at. This has been one of the items as we work with our partners at MMIR, MMGBW, that they are looking for richer data on who's missing at any given time, be able to understand trends, be able to flag individuals. I'll give an example. if a juvenile runs away multiple times, we know that's a risk factor for things such as human trafficking and all sorts of other bad things if there are multiple runaway situations. If we had a child that was in the foster care system, for example, and they run from one city in Minneapolis and then they're recovered, they're put back in, they might move to a different foster care or a different facility in, say, Cottage Grove, and then maybe they're back in their home in, say, Anoka. Law enforcement today has a very difficult time seeing that individual in those different areas, that there's multiple situations where we should flag that we might need additional services or that we try to figure out what is going on with that child to perhaps intervene so that we don't place them at greater risk. The same thing comes with identifying trends over time within that, and there is no way and no federal database currently available to us to really understand Minnesota's data. So this would be a one-time cost, so that as that entry comes in and we work with various stakeholders, we can make sure that we're capturing additional relevant data for us to have better outcomes in missing person cases in the state of Minnesota. It's not just a situation of a juvenile runaway. There's also a number, and there's alert requests that come in every year for various bills, that some of which you've worked on. This would allow us to continue to gather additional data categories so that we can really understand the issues surrounding missing persons in the state of Minnesota and share our collective goal of recovering every single one of those persons safely. Now moving into some of the policy considerations that are in our proposals this particular year. The first one is banning of childlike sex dolls and AI-generated child sexual abuse material. The first one is we've started to uncover through our work that these are sex dolls, and it's exactly what it sounds like, that are made in the image of toddlers, sometimes infant children, that are being sold commercially. We're coming across these items as we're executing search warrants in our Internet Crimes Against Children work, child sexual abuse material, and we've recovered several of them over the past year. This would ban the sale, importation, and possession of these sex dolls in the state of Minnesota. The second component of this proposal is banning of child sexual abuse material that is artificially intelligence-driven. And it would only ban in situations where it is indistinguishable from real images. Artificial intelligence holds a lot of promise for the United States and what we can do with it. But this is one of those nefarious components of how AI can be utilized to generate images of children that are so realistic they cannot be differentiated between them. Obviously, it's concerning for a variety of reasons. We've been working over the past year to work with a number of stakeholders and constituencies and examined other areas across the United States that have worked on this particular bill, because we want to ensure that as we navigate AI-generated items, that the protections, privacy protections, and to ensure we don't run into constitutional limitations, we believe we have language that has put us in a good position to be able to examine that, and we are happy to share that as we have those particular pieces identified. The next one is limiting the scope of the information. You may recall that you passed some legislation that requires us in force investigations, officer-involved shootings, to put the entire file and all video and audio associated with that file online 30 days after that case is closed. What we have come across is that we're not asking to change the data classification. Everything would remain public the same way it would today. But with body-worn camera in particular, under the provisions that we have, there often is a lot of redaction associated with that, because a lot of that data is considered private, so we have to redact it. What we're asking is for extraneous video, meaning video that doesn't capture the event or the events leading up to the officer-involved shooting, that still would retain its same data classification, but it doesn't have to be placed online within that 30 days. We believe the public really is searching to be able to see the actual event, the use of force and the events leading up to it. And what we do see a lot of is that officers now often wear their body cams and have them activated for hours and hours after an event is concluded, which is good, but it means that we have to go through and redact all that video. And so we're not meeting that timeline. We have 8 people, 9 with a supervisor, doing full-time data practices, and we still are struggling to be able to meet that mandate. So again, would not change any data classification, just what needs to be placed online. And then the last proposal, and I know there's a few others out there, is adding another exception to the UAV language that was previously passed. We've encountered some challenges with the UAV bill that was passed previously, and one exception in particular that we run across ongoing that is not accounted for in the law. Our Violent Crime Reduction Unit has been doing really great work that you've funded along with a lot of our partners that are engaged in the same work across the entire state of Minnesota. There's a restriction on flying UAVs over private property, even in a case where we have a fleeing suspect. So we often are encountering somebody, they will run from our officers, they're wanted on a felony violation. When they start running through backyards, we are not able to use a UAV without a search warrant at this point in time. This would create an additional exception, which is recognized under the Fourth Amendment, but our statute is more restrictive, that would allow us to launch that UAV and be able to set a perimeter, and that we believe is safer for the pursuing officers and the individual that they're pursuing, as opposed to jumping over backyards and running after them. They would be able to launch the UAV, figure out where they are, set a perimeter, and be able to use different tactics to be able to call that person out so that we're not having to chase them through that. We certainly are open to different ways to address this in terms of data classification. If people think that there should be different ways that data over those backyards or private property should be handled, there are provisions in the statute already, but there's certainly some items that could be examined. The last two items that are in the bonding committee, and I want to thank the people that have taken the time to meet with us already on this, but we are bringing it up here because we know sometimes it has an impact to the work that you do. The first is completing the Mankato facility, which is a laboratory and regional office for us. It's $68 million. We are completing the design process and own the land. If you've been to the Mankato area, it's right next door to the Justice Center, so it's next door to the courthouse. And then our partners over at the State Patrol are across the street, so there's really a public safety complex area. This would have provide approximately 50 positions down there. We are so over capacity at our facilities right now that we anticipate this facility will be filled with people that choose to transfer, and as we have turnover, we will fill the positions in Mankato once this facility is open to alleviate the overcrowding that we have at our main headquarters facility, which is located here in St. Paul. The criticality and the importance to your committee in particular is we are so packed for the locations that we have now that when we start addressing issues such as turnaround time in our laboratories that's remained important to you, it's important to us that we do not have additional space to put additional people at this time if and when we get to the threshold where we need to add additional staffing to keep that turnaround time in an acceptable place. The other one is for land acquisition and design in Bemidji. That same facility, we believe, should be about the same size as Mankato. Mankato, we right now have about 55,000 square feet, which is what is anticipated in that location. Bemidji is about 27,000. So this would add on to Bemidji. Even if Mankato were built today, we are still over capacity for our facilities. And so this would get us to where we need to be approximately in the next 15, 20 years for space needs for the BCA. This is a fairly realistic rendition of what that facility would look like because as I said before, we are in the final stages of that design. It is a shovel-ready project that would be ready to go if money were available come this summer. And with that, we will open it up for any questions you may have for any of us.
I always knew the public safety budget was an exciting topic, but look at the crowd you've drawn for this. That's pretty impressive. Any members of the committee have questions for any of the testifiers or those who have already been at the table? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, question I have on the fee for the schools and charter schools specifically. How do we charge the public schools? It sounds like the fee for the charter schools is what's being proposed to change and go up. But how do the public schools get charged right now?
Marshall Cryer.
All right, Chair Latz, Senator Westrom, yeah, excellent question. We charge public schools on a per square footage fee, and so this proposal would match that same fee. So a public school and a charter school would be charged the same fee schedule.
Senator Westrom.
So, Mr. Chair, so like a building of 100,000 square feet, how much would that go up when you're saying $100 currently is equivalent to $7,500, what kind of fee are we looking at for a building of 100,000 or more feet?
Marshall Cryer.
Chair Latz, Senator Westrom, let me quickly do some math on that. It would be approximately a 100,000 square foot building would be charged around $1,400 every 3 years. And so it'd be a $1,300 increase over that 3-year period.
Last question, Mr. Chair, but, so my understanding, that's the same fee that you're charging a public school now, every 3 years?
Marshall Cryer.
Chair Latz, Senator Westrom, that is correct.
Okay.
You know, what I'm going to suggest, because we're keeping a list of people who have questions, but while we have Marshall Cryer at the table, let's see if we can get all our committee questions of the fire marshal right now, then he doesn't have to jump up and down and, for the rest of the afternoon. Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to recognize the State Fire Marshal and their office for the good work that they do for the people of Minnesota. I think a lot of times, and maybe Senator Howe can back me up on this, the fire service and those within that purview often operate behind the scenes. And you talk about the high-angle rescue folks or Task Force 1, even your hazmat technicians. These are the people that you really want when you need them, but you hope you never need them. And they're highly trained, as you mentioned. They don't get called out a lot, but when they do, you want them to be as highly trained as possible. It takes a lot of training to ensure that teams are ready at a moment's notice to go wherever the problem is, figure out what to do, and then handle it. I am, as you know, on a fire department. Senator Howe, as well, has experience in the fire service. I'm also a member of the County Dive Rescue Team. And I spent the weekend, this past weekend, ice diving. So diving onto the ice because people go through the ice, and we got to know how to do that. And at -12 yesterday, it was a challenge to keep everything from freezing up. But it's what we do. It's what your teams do, and I want to thank you for everything that you do for the state of Minnesota.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Getting back to the charter school proposal here, and just to correct my friend and colleague, Senator Westrom, charter schools are public schools as well. So I differentiate between traditional public schools and charter schools. And a couple of questions here, maybe one question, one comment, but do you know the historical genesis for why charter schools were established with a flat fee versus a square footage fee? I'm assuming that started in the 90s, I would guess. Do you know why?
Marshall Cryer.
Chair Latz, Senator. I've been told by my staff that that's, at the time when this statute was adopted, many, if not most, charter schools were smaller in size. The concept of leasing space from an existing building, and so the $100 fee was to allow for people, was to account for that, the smaller school size. As you've pointed out, charter schools are a public school, and I don't know if they're increasing in popularity, but they are increasing in enrollment, many of these schools. And as they increase in enrollment, they would like to maintain, that school and not have to ship students to a different school, so they generally are growing as well. And with a larger school, we want to be able to accommodate doing that fire inspection fee.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that response. And I guess my comment is that I understand it makes sense to treat traditional public schools and charter schools the same. I get that part of it. But it sounds like, based on the calculations that I'm hearing, for most of these charter schools, it is going to be an increase in their fees, perhaps substantially. And I would just note that there are many, and this is beyond the purview necessarily of a fire marshal, but there are many funding inequities that charter schools face by virtue of the fact that they don't have levy authority, and a lot of our education funding is tied to the fact, having levy authority that they miss out on. So they've been advocating an education to make up for those inequities. And then, now we're in this committee asking for them to chip in more. And I imagine they're probably not too thrilled about that. So I'd like to see maybe some progress on education and on this, because I think this does make some sense. But there are some cost realities out there for charter schools as well that I just wanted to make you aware of. And then, Mr. Chair, one final thing for thank you. And I just got an email while you were presenting from commander of the North Metro Hazardous Materials Response Team, who was very supportive of this response proposal here that will apparently do some good things for some already good work that they're doing, and I'm interested in learning more about that. Thank you.
Senator Limmer for Marshall Crier, and then Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marshall Grier, regarding fire inspection fees, how do you handle private schools? Are they also included in your inspection duties?
Marshall Crier.
Chair Lat, excuse me, Chair Lat, Senator Limmer, the statute does not require fire inspections at private and parochial schools. So the state fire marshal does not do fire inspections at private schools. However, local jurisdictions may be doing fire inspections at the private schools in their community.
Yeah. One other question.
Senator Limmer.
When you collect the fee, where does the money go?
Marshall Crier.
Chair Latz, Senator Limmer, the fee collected for the inspections that we do go to a dedicated school safety account, which is the account that pays for the staff that do the school fire inspections. For the local jurisdictions with delegation, they receive those funds. They sign a contract with us to maintain that delegation. We audit their delegation and make sure they are performing and meeting the standards as set that we have set and meeting expectations. And then they receive those funds directly and use them at the city level.
Mr. Chair, one last
Senator Limmer.
question. Is there ever a reserve balance in that account, or does it kind of zero itself out every year?
Marshall Crier.
Chair Latz, Senator Limmer. So there are at times where there is a reserve balance. We try to even out each year to account for, ideally it would be an even number of square footage inspected every single year. But as a new building comes on board, it gets added to the list and will be there again 3 years later. So it is uneven across a 3-year period. And then, of course, comes down to management of those funds to make sure that we are keeping that at a zero balance. I think it's right to say that this previous, in fiscal '23, was noticed that there was a surplus in that account. And to address that, we hired another school fire inspector. And that helped in a variety of ways. Mostly, the schools team was not able to get to 100% of their inspection workload in a given fiscal year. There could be people injured, retirements, but really they were operating at minimum capacity and then just never meeting that level. So hiring that additional person previous fiscal year should even that out, and that as far as their workload, to be able to get to all of the schools in a 3-year period. And that will draw down those funds so that it is forecast to be net zero in the future.
Thank you.
Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to see you again, Marshall Cry. I guess I've got one thing I'd like to follow up on Senator Limmer's discussion about private schools or parochial schools, and actually, I don't know if you would like to expound on this, but it was actually parochial school fires and the fire deaths in those fires that promulgated us to start inspecting schools. And then what's the oddity of that is that now parochial schools aren't inspected at all, and the public schools where I don't know if we've had very many fire deaths at all in public schools, but they're all the public schools are inspected. So it's kind of an oddity that happened, that what promulgated this in the first place was parochial fire deaths that started this whole thing, and then now they're not even inspected, unless the locals inspect it, which is kind of rare. The question I have is, I know public schools, if they have fire safety issues, there's usually a grant or an account that they can go to. Are the charter schools included in that capability of going to that account to get those interest-free funds?
Marshall Crier.
Chair Latz, Senator Howe, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if they're able to use those funds. But that is something that I think that would be prudent for us to look into, especially as we're factoring in other comments on a comprehensive approach to, what is this impact on charter schools?
Senator
Thank
Howe.
you. That's exactly where I think we need to go. If we're gonna treat them like public schools as they are, but they're a little bit different breed of a public school, we should treat them that way all the way along and give them access to those funds. And I will say, they didn't touch on some of the ones that the State Fire Marshal's office in their role as far as the fire code and the fire investigations. The fire investigations is really where a lot of us fire departments touch them when we have a fire death or a fire that needs to be investigated. Many of the smaller departments don't have a fire investigator or someone trained in arson investigation or fire investigation at all. So we reach out to them at all hours of the night, and they come and do our investigations in many respects. So that, and every time I got a fire code question, they're on my speed dial to get that answer. So I really appreciate those other components that weren't talked about today. I appreciate those. Thank you.
Any other questions for Marshall Crier? Not seeing any other questions from members of the committee for any of the testifiers. Senator Westland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple of questions for Director Babine regarding the victim service grants. And I know the governor is budgeting about $5 million, and we have a room full of folks who are going to be here participating in our next conversation about survivor support groups. And $5 million is just, it's a drop in the bucket. That's just not going to support the needs for domestic violence, sexual violence support groups. So that's already challenging. And I guess my question to you is, there was a report recently that the Federal Office on Violence Against Women took down their grant application process. And I'm curious to know, my understanding is that there are grants that flow from that office, I believe, to your office, and then from there that flow out to our survivor support groups. I'm wondering if you have been able to sort of understand what that impact is going to be in terms of this other funding source for some of our organizations.
Director Babine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, thank you for that question. So you are correct. There are federal funds through several different funding streams that come through the Office of Justice Programs at DPS that go then into our crime victim services grants out to organizations. The Office of Violence Against Women, that did happen, the funding opportunities came down. That was not unlike some of our other offices within the Department of Justice and other places where we have federal funding. Many took them down. We suspect, what we've heard is that they are reviewing them and may add different conditions. The federal funder may add different conditions to the funding in order to direct it in for certain priorities. We don't know exactly what that will look like. And just more broadly, the memo from the Office of Management and Budget that froze federal funds was significant because that's all of the federal funds that we receive for this purpose and for others across Office of Justice Programs and DPS more broadly. And then, as you know, that memo was rescinded and also blocked by courts. The news from last week was the Department of Justice put out a memo that had specific pieces for limiting funding for sanctuary jurisdictions, and that also included nonprofit organizations. We are serving immigrants who are undocumented. We are continuing to look through that with our general counsel's office at the Department of Public Safety to figure out exactly what the impacts of those things will be. The reality is that that federal funding and exactly how it flows is affected, and there is significant federal funds for crime victim services in addition to state funds, and so it is very serious, and we don't yet have a full picture of the impact, and that's how we're spending our days, is trying to figure that out.
Senator Westland.
Thank you so much for that really thorough response. My understanding is that some of the organizations who are in this room today get anywhere from 30% or more of their funding from these sources. We have organizations in this room who have not seen significant funding increases even to just maintain the current need to address those who are experiencing domestic and sexual violence. And it just seems to me that we as a committee and we in the state need to concern ourselves with the fact that the services that these organizations provide help our justice system work better. When we have advocates who are working directly with victims who are part of a legal process, either the criminal process, those advocates provide support for prosecutors in doing their jobs. We have them helping people through the civil process to ensure that they're able to obtain orders for protection. And the work that those advocates are doing is absolutely critical. And yet, even aside from that, we have advocates who have never had an increase in their salaries for a very long time, who I think their work is so valuable, but if our budgets are moral documents, we're kind of saying, not you, but we're kind of saying that the work that they do is not as valuable as what somebody else may do. And I appreciate your bringing forward this information. I appreciate all that we can do to try to support these organizations who are helping primarily women and children in some of the most difficult and desperate situations. And now, on top of that, are facing these constraints that just make it impossible for them to do their jobs. But I thank you for your thoughtful testimony today and for sharing that information.
Thank you, Senator.
Director Babine, just a clarification, if I may. The $5 million you're seeking in fiscal year '26, is that an increase over our current funding levels?
So it is an increase over current base, yes, and it is a one-time appropriation.
All right, yeah, it doesn't matter to me what a person's country of origin is or their legal status in the United States. If they are a victim of crime, they deserve to have crime victim services, just plain and simple. They're human beings, and that's the bottom line for me. Any other questions for Director Babine? All right, any other questions from members of the committee, from any of the other testifiers from the Department of Public Safety? No one wants to play stump the commissioner here?
It's right here.
Senator Limmer.
I did have a question. Normally in this area, on the services for crime victims, we've normally increased it 2 to 3%. Last time, I think we bumped it up a little higher, and now it's proposal is getting higher yet. What's happening out in the real world that is increasing that demand?
Director Babley.
Mr. Chair, Senator Limmer, so the $5 million is actually, when you look at the 24-25 funding levels, because of the one-time funding that the legislature provided, it actually is, it is not an increase over current levels. It's a, looking at Mr. Turner, it is an increase to the, from the base level. So when you look at current levels, what funding is available for for our programs, or for the programs that receive funding versus this one-time appropriation. So generally, the increase is, the programs have not seen an increase to their grant funds in many years. The grant cycle in 2023 that resulted in the 24-25 grants, most of the programs were kept at flat funding, which really actually resulted in a cut to them because of rising staff costs. So that 2 to 3% was not reflected in their grant amounts. We know that the cost of services are increasing, and so this is one step to keeping the grant funds moving, but it is not an increase overall to the amount of resources available for these grants.
Thank you.
Members will have plenty of opportunity on the policy proposals as they come before us in individual bills to take a look at the BCA's proposals for body camera or for other video recordings of what should be posted online, what shouldn't, what's the starting point, what's the cutoff point, what parameters we put on that. You know, certainly some amount of time prior to an incident needs to be public so people understand what led to the use of force. You know, how many hours you go after that, or how many hours you start before that, you know, is another question. I certainly understand the cost of redaction and the cost of just maintaining the data is pretty substantial. And then I'm sure we'll also have a robust discussion about the use of UAVs or drones in pursuit, in hot pursuit of fleeing suspects. So we've had those conversations in the past. I don't think they're going to go away during the tenure of any of us here in the Senate, but we'll meet that conversation when those bills come before us. And it's a good idea to take a look at data classifications as well when those topics come up. Any other comments or questions for the Department of Public Safety at this time?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at your request to provide standing authority to use a portion of all grant appropriations for grant administration costs. Can you tell me what the current practice is there, why this is needed, and then wouldn't this actually take funds away from things like crime victim services? If you could just walk me through that.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Senator Kroon, members of the committee, that's a great question. So the grant authority, number one, there's our legacy grants do not have that authority right now for that 5 to 10% grant administration fee. New grants over the last year or two do have that authority, so we are currently utilizing newer grants to be able to utilize that grant authority. You know, part of what we're looking at is to, again, to make sure that we have staffing levels that are appropriate to make sure that we're preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. We know that some of the grants that are coming in may need more technical assistance than others. So part of that 5 to 10% is also weighted, 5% perhaps is a grantee that may not need as much guidance or oversight. 10% may require more oversight. We're trying to get grantees that maybe have not participated in grant programs before, so really trying to make sure that we're casting a wide net for grantees. So really the The proposal just ensures that we have enough staffing to review with our team to make sure that those grants are being processed and implemented appropriately. And this gives us the ability to make sure that we can do that.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that answer. Obviously, we don't want to be taking money away from, out of the grants for things like crime victim services. We also don't want waste, fraud, and abuse in the program. I get that. I don't know, 5 to 10% seems high to me. That's something that I would want to look into to see if what's in line, like with some other grant programs and what those percentages are, and see if it needs to be that high. Obviously, we want to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, but to try to get that number down as low as possible. So I don't have the right answer right now, just something I'm flagging. Thanks.
Any other questions for the Department of Public Safety? We will see the detailed budget proposals before this committee as time goes on here, sooner rather than later, at the rate we're going. So, all right, thank you, Commissioner, and your team for being here today and answering our questions.
Thank you so much.
So we are now going to transition to presentation by survivors support groups, and what we're going to do is invite, since we have 3 chairs, we're going to invite 3 directors to come forward, and I'll name them in a second, and then when they're done, each one can make a presentation, and then we'll ask that person to rotate back into the audience chairs and create a space for the next person to come forward. Members, if you want to make some notes of questions that you may have, we'll do it the same way we just did this. To make sure we have time to get through all the initial presentations, we'll do that first, and then we'll follow up with questions for individual directors. So first, I'm going to invite Guadalupe Lopez, Marcia Milliken, and Bobby Holtberg to come forward. This is from Violence Free Minnesota, Minnesota Children's Alliance, Minnesota Alliance on Crime. And the other 2 I have signed up to testify here today are Kenosha Alexander from MnCASA and Nicole Matthews from the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. So why don't we just start with the order that I've called them up. That's how it shows up on my agenda. We'll ask each of you to give us your name so we have it for the official committee hearing record and your affiliation, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say. So, Ms. Lopez, let's start with you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Latz and members of the committee. My name is Guadalupe Lopez. I'm Executive Director of Violence Free Minnesota. And I'm excited to be here today to present the important work that we do as coalitions with my relative coalitions. We serve over 90 member programs from every part of Minnesota who provide direct services to victims and survivors of domestic violence. And our community grass organizing started in 1978 that established which was then the Minnesota Coalition for Battered Women. And in 2019, we changed our name to Violence Free Minnesota. We as a coalition, we offer support, system and social change efforts for the state of Minnesota, supporting our member programs with technical assistance and training and education and policy efforts. Our member programs provide crucial shelter, legal system navigation, healthcare coordination, childcare, peer support, mental health resources, transportation, and other wraparound services to victims of domestic violence. Like I said, we work to improve system and social change. And as you can see from the letter that we had shared, we have many community supporters that trust in our work and also our community helpers. We are here as one of 6 crime victim coalitions today to present on the needs of survivors in our community. If there is one last thing that we want you to take away from today's presentation, it is that crime victim services is crucial and underfunded as part of Minnesota public safety infrastructure. We will start a quick overview with the Minnesota 6 crime coalitions. My fellow executive directors are here today to give more detail and testimony about their own programs, but we will find it important to ensure you to know that the broad range of services that fall under Crime Victim Services umbrella. As I previously mentioned, I represent Violence Free Minnesota, which is the statewide domestic violence, or the statewide domestic violence coalition. We also have Mending the Sacred Hoop is a tribal coalition against domestic violence. The Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault is the coalition to end sexual violence. The Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition is the tribal coalition to end sexual violence. And the Minnesota Children's Alliance is a statewide coalition to serve child victims of violence. And then we have the Minnesota Alliance on Crime is a statewide general crimes coalition. As you will hear, all of our coalitions are united in the goal of preventing and treating violence in Minnesota. The services that our member programs offer are varied and specific to the harms that each coalition is designed to prevent. Some of our member programs belong to many different coalitions, and some others just belong to just one. We want to assure you that the services we advocate for can continue to exist and grow to support our community and to succeed. To that end, the most significant thing our state can do is to invest in all services and survivors. To continue to make the case for our funding, I would like to pass the microphone to my colleague, Marcia Milliken.
Ms. Milliken, welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Latz and members of the committee. My name is Marcia Milliken. I am the Executive Director of the Minnesota Children's Alliance. Our coalition consists of children's advocacy centers and multidisciplinary teams that coordinate the investigation, prosecution, and treatment of child abuse cases. Currently, CACs, or Child Advocacy Centers, have been around since the mid-'80s. Currently, there are 13 CACs in Minnesota. Not nearly enough to serve all the kids. We serve over 3,000 kids a year who are victims of sexual abuse, serious physical abuse, trafficking, and serious neglect, as well as witnesses to other violent crimes. CACs bring professionals together from multiple disciplines, such as law enforcement, child protection, advocacy, medical professionals, mental health experts, and prosecutors to ensure a collaborative response to child abuse. These partnerships improve the efficiency and efficacy of investigations. They reduce delays, and they ultimately protect other children from potential harm. CACs also provide specialized, neutral, fact-finding forensic interviews. These interviews are crucial in gathering accurate information from children, ensuring that they are not re-traumatized while providing critical evidence that can be used in criminal investigations and prosecutions. We are here today to demonstrate the importance of our work and how inadequate funding affects what we can accomplish. Crime victims advocates play an essential role in promoting public safety, yet their essential work is often overlooked. Advocates are highly skilled and specialized workers who combine the capacity for empathy, understanding, and care with the extensive knowledge about legal, healthcare, and government benefit systems. All of our coalitions are experiencing a significant staffing crisis. Many of our dedicated staff, including advocates, who are deeply committed to supporting survivors, are leaving their positions to work in retail or fast food, not because they want to leave their important work, but because those industries often offer better pay. Without competitive wages, we risk losing skilled professionals who provide life-saving support to survivors. Additionally, physical infrastructure remains a major hurdle. One domestic violence shelter has a staggering 77% turnover rate simply because there are no more beds available. Survivors fleeing violence and access to safe, secure, and discreet facilities, spaces that are not only crucial for their well-being, but also for the safety of the advocates who serve them. However, these facilities require substantial investment to meet the demand. Technology is another crucial area of need. Our technology is aging and needs to be updated if not replaced. As cybersecurity threats grow and digital information becomes essential for providing services, our programs are doing their best to keep up with technological advancements. For example, our forensic interview recording equipment, it falls under the same issues. Many times it is aging, if not failing the needs of our child advocacy centers. However, when faced with a choice between serving more survivors or upgrading IT systems, programs understandably prioritize direct services. But without modern and secure technology, survivor support becomes increasingly vulnerable to digital risks. Chair Lass and members, thank you for your time. I'll now pass it over to Bobby Holtberg of the Minnesota Alliance on Crime to give some history on crime victim services funding.
Ms. Holbert, before you join us, why don't we invite Kenosha Alexander to take the seat at the table? And Ms. Milliken, if you could step back, and we'll invite Nicole Matthews to come forward into your seat. Ms. Holbert, welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Chair Latz and members of the committee, my name is Bobby Holtberg, and I am the Executive Director of the Minnesota Alliance on Crime. The over 90 member programs of our coalition are tasked with providing support and services to crime victims in Minnesota as their cases make their way through the criminal legal system and during post-conviction phases. These are the only advocates in Minnesota who have statutory obligations to ensure victims are afforded their rights. These highly skilled advocates work within prosecutorial and law enforcement offices throughout the state. My role in today's presentation is to give some history about how crime victim services have historically been funded. I want to note at the outset that non-governmental nonprofits are doing everything they can to fundraise in their communities. Our movement has focused heavily on diversifying its funding, and currently the 6 coalitions are working together to secure sustainable funding streams to maximize resilience. And it remains true that the single largest source of funding for crime victims' services is state and federal funding. Historically, federal funding has been the largest source. The main federal mechanism of funding is the Crime Victims Fund, which is funded pursuant to the Victims of Crime Act, or VOCA. VOCA works by ensuring that money generated from federal prosecutions is given to crime victim services. This means that most of the federal funding comes from white-collar prosecutions, as these crimes tend to have the essential combination of expensive payouts and criminals with the ability to pay. In 2017, the federal government switched to a deferred prosecution model for prosecuting white-collar crime. While fines were still being paid, because there was no official prosecution, the Crime Victims Fund was not being filled. This loophole was closed in 2021, but the Crime Victims Fund has never recovered. Minnesota and the rest of the states have faced declining payouts from the federal government ever since. Last year, Minnesota had a 40% cut. And this year, it is expected to be a 42% cut, or around another $10 million. In these years of declining federal revenue, we are proud to say that our state has shown up in a bipartisan manner to help continue funding for services. In recent years, our legislature has approved approximately a $5 million per year increase to our base funding level and granted multiple one-time funding increases. Over the past biennium, the total state investment in one-time funds in our programs has been $33 million. Chair Latz and members, we could not be more grateful for the way that our state has stepped up to support us during this crisis. But what we are looking at now is a fiscal cliff. At least $10 million from federal funds will be gone. $33 million from state one-time funds will be gone. There is no other way to frame this than to say the great progress Minnesota has made in restoring the health and dignity of survivors of crime and violence will be dealt an unrecoverable blow if no new funds are approved. I will now pass it over to Kenosha Alexander from the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
Thank you.
Ms. Alexander, welcome to the committee.
Thank you for having us. Good afternoon, Chair Latz and members of the committee. My name is Kenosha Alexander. This is not just my work, but causes that I'm passionate about. Currently, I serve as the board chair for the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Violence-Free Minnesota, and the Crime Victims Reimbursement Board. My primary role is the Executive Director of the Sexual Violence Center. Today, I'm here to represent MNCASA. At MNCASA, we provide advocacy, training, support, and technical assistance to 61 programs providing services to victims of sexual assault. Today, I'm here to inform you about the positive case for what our services could do if we receive an increased investment. All of us share a daily mission to prevent, intervene, and treat violence in our communities. With increased investment in our crucial services, we can scale up the level of service we provide. One unifying goal of our coalitions is to increase the pay of our advocates. It is a challenge for many program staff to focus on taking care of others when their basic needs are not being met with their current salaries. Increased wages will help us to retain the most experienced and accomplished advocates. These experienced advocates are crucial to establishing continuity and expertise within our movement. We also want to make sure that our services can reach the entire state. Without an increased investment from the state, some of our programs will need to shut down or substantially reduce their services. In some areas, particularly in rural Minnesota, one program covers many counties. Protecting and expanding the programs who do not have an overlap with neighboring programs is a major objective. We would also like to make sure Minnesota Crime Victim Services can remain specific to the crimes that they specialize in. About 10 years ago, Minnesota had more than 32 programs that specifically provided services to victims of sexual violence. Today, there are only 6 community-based organizations and 1 governmental organization that are dedicated rape crisis centers. Due to the limited funding, many of these programs have had to shut down or merge with others. Victims of crime in Minnesota deserve a system designed just for them. They deserve a system that uplifts them and focuses on their healing and wholeness entirely. Funding pressure has long strained the system. We need an investment from our state, and I want to thank you for your time and the opportunity to present. And I'll turn it over to Nicole Matthews.
Ms. Matthews, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Latz and members of the committee. Buju and Dinawe Maganang, Nicole Matthews Jaganashimang, Manidu Beneshi Kwendago, Migazian Dodame, Gawa Babaganakag in Dunjaba. Greetings, relatives. My English name is Nicole Matthews. My native name is Spirit Bird Woman. I'm Eagle Clan, and my people are from the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. I am the CEO of the Minnesota Indian Women Sexual Assault Coalition, which is one of 2 statewide tribal coalitions in Minnesota. Our coalition is focused specifically on addressing sexual violence, including the intersections of sex trafficking and our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And Mending the Sacred Hoop is our sister tribal coalition focused on addressing domestic violence. Our coalition has a membership of 43 organizational members and more than 64 individual members. Our member organizations work with Native victims of sexual violence in Minnesota's tribal communities, which are urban, reservation, and rural-based. Our coalition was formed in 2001 when funding became available in the Violence Against Women Act to create tribal coalitions to address the high rates of violence against our Native women and children. As we began organizing and listening to our communities, we learned how closely sexual violence intersects with sex trafficking and missing and murdered Indigenous women. 1 in 3 Native women will be raped in her lifetime, and the vast majority of perpetrators are non-Native, which creates jurisdictional challenges for many of these survivors and their families. Sadly, the rates of violence in our communities has not changed all that much in the 23 years that I have been at MUSAC. And perpetrators of sexual violence continue to target our communities and our people. Some things have changed since then. The tactics used by perpetrators have evolved. They are using electronic communication to groom, target, manipulate, blackmail, and abuse victims to the direct detriment of our people. And sadly, the funding and the systems-based responses to sexual violence has not evolved at the same pace. The tragedy is that as we navigate the escalating crisis of sexual violence within our communities and against our relatives, funding to serve victims of crime has fallen dramatically. Our member programs are serving some of the most remote areas of the state, depending on skilled and passionate advocates who do this work because they love our people and they are committed to creating change for our relatives. The spiritual calling of advocacy does not excuse the low wages and economic hardship that many advocates endure. Victims and survivors of sexual violence deserve and must be able to depend upon well-resourced advocates to walk alongside them in the aftermath of violence and trauma. There is unfortunately an understanding in the world of advocacy that funding is increasingly insufficient and sadly not dependable. The state of Minnesota has led by example in its relationship building and partnerships with tribal nations and Native people living within the boundaries of this state. We ask you to consider the under-resourced systems our communities rely upon in an emergency, the maze of jurisdiction and complicated systems that a Native victim of sexual violence must navigate, and most of all, the call of your fellow Minnesotans to make an ongoing investment to support victims and survivors of crime. What message are we sending to survivors, but also to perpetrators, when we continue to provide unstable, inadequate funding for victims? Minnesota has long been a leader in addressing sexual and domestic violence, and I am so very honored to call this state my home. But we can and we must do better to meet the needs of survivors in Minnesota. I am grateful to each of you for your work on behalf of all of our communities in Minnesota, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. Chimigwech.
Thank you for your testimony, and thank you to all of your supporters who took the time and made the effort to come here to the Capitol for this public hearing today. It's noticed and appreciated. I also want to make sure we recognize that the Commissioner of Public Safety and the directors of the BCA and the Office of Justice Programs have stayed past their presentation to hear what you have to say as well this afternoon.
Thank you.
We're now going to open up the floor here to members of the committee if there are any questions for any of those who testified in connection with the survivor support groups. Senator Westland?
I really just want to follow up on what I stated earlier, and first of all, to thank all of you for this incredible work that you do. As someone who is myself a survivor of domestic violence, I experienced it at a time where I did not I lived outside the state of Minnesota, and I had no support system and no friends. And I didn't have organizations like you to rely on. I don't ever want anyone who finds themselves in this situation to feel that they can't get the help that they need. It is horrible. It is painful. And this is an epidemic in our society that simply is completely unacceptable. I want to thank you so much for being here, and we absolutely have to prioritize this work because this is something that continues generationally over and over and over again. And if we can do something about this problem in our society, we will go a long way to creating a world that is safe for our kids and for our women. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Westland, thank you for sharing with us. And clearly the trauma doesn't go away when the criminal justice portion is completed. It's a lifetime impact. Senator Umover Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank you, Senator Westland, for sharing your story with us. And I know so many of you are survivors and are helping survivors, and so many of us have been touched by this issue. I want to talk about what's happening at the federal level, which just seems especially cruel in this moment. We saw that the federal office on violence against women has removed funding opportunities from its website. And I know that you all rely on federal funding. This is presumably in response to all the executive orders that we're seeing come out of this administration. So can you talk about what the impact of those cuts is to your budget? One of the questions that I have is, oftentimes with funding, folks are expecting that, have spent those resources and are looking for reimbursements, have been promised that money. Just any stories that any of you want to share about funding that you will, depend on, were already promised, and are having trouble securing right now.
Wants to take that on?
Thank you for that question. I think
Ms.
there's
Matthews.
a lot of fear in the field right now about federal funding, and since the memo was put out about the federal funding freeze and then the subsequent orders around not doing work related to DEI or work relating to gender, and then seeing. We are actually in the midst of writing some of those grants, and we're watching in real time as they were pulling them down one after one after one. We have screenshots of when they were pulling them down in the evening. Many of our programs rely on those funds. Many of our tribal programs, in fact, probably the vast majority of our tribal programs rely on those funds to be able to provide the critical services they provide in Indian country. Many of our programs also rely on those federal funds to do our work. I think our organization in particular is probably about 80% federally funded. And so should that funding go away, we will not have the staff that we have today. And when the memo was, when the federal funding freeze was put out 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my staff that morning about layoffs. Because we cannot continue to move forward, given our reliance on the federal funding system. And that's also why I think one thing that I have heard time and time again when working with our federal counterparts is they're like, "You're really lucky in Minnesota," and a lot of the country is not like Minnesota, and we are very fortunate to have the support and hopefully the ongoing support for our programs and the services that are so critical and so needed, and especially in this moment of uncertainty where we don't know, right? We assume that those solicitations will be put back up, but we don't know. And so hopefully we will have, our state really stepping up, and we've called on philanthropy to also step up to help fill those gaps so that our programs can continue to provide the critical services that are needed every day. Thank you.
Any other testifiers wish to add your
No,
thoughts,
I was
impact
just-
on your organizations? Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. I was just going to echo what Nicole said. At MCASA, the federal funds represent about 80% of our budget too as well. While some may come through the state, they're essentially federal dollars. And we were all in our critical grant writing season, because those have to be renewed every year. And to see some of those renewals being pulled down was definitely a shock for our organization. And we immediately began doing the numbers game. How many pay cycles do we have before we run out of cash on hand, right? And how do we reduce staff in a way that we're still able to do our mission? And so those are just conversations that we're having at the coalition level, but it's echoed at all the programs that we're providing services to support for. So that's 61 sexual assault related programs. And then Nicole said they had 43, and so on and on. And so it's not just victims and survivors that are also losing out if this continues, but also the people that we employ. And so that economic footprint is going to is going to send ripple effects throughout all of our communities across the state.
The only thing
Ms. Holbrook?
Thank you, Chair Latz. The only thing I would add to that is Minnesota is a very we collaborate with others. You know, our 6 coalitions collaborate, but also you've got direct service programs who are collaborating with law enforcement on certain projects and prosecution. Almost all of the funding for those special projects are federal funds. And so while we have a really rich history of helping law enforcement understand what we do, us understanding what they do, and how we can work together for the greater good and response to victims of crime, that work gets set back also.
Ms. Lopez or Milliken, anything you'd like to add? I mean, we were really fortunate in the budget cycle 2 years ago to have a lot of one-time money available to fill in for the cuts from VOCA. It's tighter this year, as you know.
Yes. Right, and those one-time funds are going away at the same time
Yeah.
that we're going to experience a pretty deep cut from the feds. And that's just what we know about VOCA. Then you have to add on what's happening with VAWA. And I mean, it just, to say that this is a crisis is an understatement. I don't know what the words to put to this to make, to relay the actual devastation that will be caused and is being caused.
Thank you, Ms. Holbrook. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been listening carefully to the survivor support groups that are before us, but the one question that I keep rolling around in my mind is, and I forgive me if I don't know this, but is anyone getting to those that do abuse? Are we changing the culture? Are we doing anything so that someday this group will shrink in size because the prevalency of attack, prevalency of abuse will be mitigated in some way? And Senator Latz, you and I have both gone through budgets a lot over the years, and I'm just wondering, is there any group out there that are getting ahead of the curve? And we need these groups, but we need to get ahead of the curve. So could you enlighten us in any way?
Yes, if I may. There are
Ms.
wonderful
Alexander.
programs like the Domestic Abuse Project that is working with individuals who are perpetrators of violence. And then there's organizations like Men as Peacemakers that are doing some very preventive type work as well. And so we're addressing it from all sides of the issues, taking care of the victims that are needing services, as well as beginning to look at how do we prevent, as well as how do we redirect. And so through the 6 coalitions represented here, a bulk of our membership also do the prevention and that intervention services as well.
Ms. Lopez.
Hi. On our website, we actually have a directory for programs that do transformation programming for people who have caused harm. So that is something that we house on our website for community members. And I know that coalitions per se don't necessarily do direct services, but a lot of community members look for our websites for information, for tools, for resources, for extra support. I know that when we took down our website just from Friday to Saturday, and one of our communications managers said that we had 16 people just from those 2 days on the coalition level that said, where are your services? Where did you go? So just from those 2 days of us just like having maintenance on our website, we have lots of resources for our community members.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Limmer.
these other groups, are they also dependent on federal money?
For,
And maybe that's an unfair question. I'm asking you a question about their budget needs and sources without assuming you might know. But
Ms. Matthews.
thank you. Yes, I think many of them are. The CDC provides rape prevention education funding, which is, federally funded to address prevention. And so that's one chunk of money that some of the coalitions get. We get funding through there. Mencasta gets funding through there. Some other programs get funding through there to be able to address prevention in our communities. And then there is, through the Office on Violence Against Women, there is a grant program called Engaging Men and Boys. And so there are many programs also that are getting funding such as that to address, working directly with men on what does healthy masculinity look like. And so, a lot of it is funded through the feds.
Ms. Milliken.
Yes, thank you. Children's advocacy centers have been identifying and working with youth with problematic sexual behaviors for a number of years. And so when youth are showing this sexualized behavior, the earlier you can identify it and help connect them to treatment, they have over 90% success rate, and there not being any recidivism. So that's one area that's intervention/prevention. We're also looking at doing prevention in schools and with parent groups and community groups and letting them know what are some of the signs to look for so we can stop the child abuse when it happens, and how do you teach your children about healthy boundaries? How do you teach your children to be able to just have healthy relationships? And so that is one area that's completely underfunded, is any amount of prevention money in order to continue to go out and do these programs.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? All right, I'm not seeing any. So, thank you again
Thank you so
for
much.
being here today and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Members, we will meet again on Wednesday at 12:30. There being no other announcements, we are adjourned.